Hey folks, Michael Raso here. It's May 1st, 2025. It's the top of the month, which means it's time for a movie film podcast. Today, myself, Matt, and Owen McCafferty are going to be talking about supplemental lights for when you're shooting movie film. I would like to thank Sean Anderson from PhotoDeox. He was kind enough to send some lights over to us to discuss. There is no sponsorship or product placement in the Film Photography Podcast. These were all sent by Sean because, well, he shoots movie film and we all shoot movie film. Lights, color, action. That's what we're going to be talking about today on the Film Photography Podcast. Somewhat movie film, but not really. Talk about today when we talk about a lot of broad subjects that
apply to both.
To both still photography and motion picture photography.
The hate mail's already starting.
Well, also, this show very much jumps to if you're shooting digital. This is just about lighting, color grading.
That's a look. You can do that.
So my name is Michael Raso. I'm sitting in a room with Matt Marrash.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And Owen McCafferty.
Hello.
So I want to start with this awesome letter and package we received from a gentleman named Sean Anderson. He's with
at PhotoDeox.
Yeah, PhotoDeox. Now, I know Sean from the many, many, many FPP walking workshops that we had over the years. And I remember exactly 10 years ago, Sean showed up at our Michigan meet.
Up in Ann Arbor.
Mm-hmm. With his Super 8 camera in hand.
Ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
You remember what kind of Super 8?
Do not.
Well.
So Sean works for PhotoDeox.
Yes.
We're not a sponsored podcast. However, he was kind enough to send these tools, and these tools are worth talking about.
Absolutely.
Tools for tools.
That's right. Sean also sent us some audio that we're not going to be using.
It's not on you, Sean. It's just we talk too damn much.
Yeah. But Sean, I'm going to be sprinkling it in where applicable.
Great.
Sean, you probably say some great stuffs in the audio clips. I'm just not going to roll the audio clips in one big segment. I'm going to just, as my friend Bashir would say, sprinkle.
Hey FPP gang, Sean Anderson here to talk about lens adapters, specifically using lens adapters on film cameras.
I knew Matt Marrash was the guy to open this box because I'm the guy. I'm just like, what is it?
He just threw me a knife. He's like, here.
Yeah, because Matt could interpret what the stuff is, and my brain only could see what I have an application for.
This is what Mike was doing the whole time.
And what I'm looking for, from both me and FPP shooters, you folks at home, I'm looking for continuous, easy light sources so that when we're shooting our motion picture film, Super 8, Double 8, 16 millimeter, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of a wedding shooter.
Yep.
Someone who's shooting small. Let's say you have your Super 8 camera in your hand shooting, and in your left hand, if you're a righty, in your left hand, you would literally be holding a little light panel in order to give a little poof.
Little fill light.
What did you call me?
A poof. In order to give a little fill into the face of the person you're shooting, because that little fill means everything, because it all of a sudden pops your
subject.
Your subject. So that's what I was looking for, and that is in this box. But then there's all other stuff.
Sean sent us a whole bunch. This is a real goodie bag.
Yeah. So Matt, would you mind kind of going through what we have?
Sean in the Millimeter Club?
I think Sean's absolutely in the Millimeter Club.
Oh, Sean's in the Millimeter Club.
He didn't even have to send this. He was in the Millimeter Club. Yeah. But Sean sent a variety of products that PhotoDeox offers. Now, of course,
what is PhotoDeox?
So PhotoDeox is a company that I primarily knew as a lens adapter company, because they were some of the earliest in the game as far as making adapters. Because right around the advent of the first mirrorless cameras in the mid-aughts, the early 2000s, there weren't that many options, but there was a lot of new exciting cameras, and there was all these, essentially being thrown out lens mounts and cine cameras and such. And people were taking old lenses from those stocks and just throwing them onto whatever they could. And PhotoDeox has been always a really good quality and affordable option for those different types of adapters. So first off, Sean sent us a whole variety of adapters, and they kind of range from just a standard, what I would call a metal ring that gets you from A to B to some more kind of premium offerings that add some things that are nice for people that are maybe doing filmmaking with manual focus lenses, or even, a little bit fancier
Also,
stuff.
really quick,
Yeah.
when I think of adapters, and I only think of this because of what we have at FPP in our school camera donation program. And what we have there is an incredible amount, boxes and boxes of M42 mount lenses. And these, am I correct in saying they're also the cheapest lenses you could buy on eBay?
Some of the, yes.
Some of them.
Yeah. Yeah, they're easy to obtain and they're a good candidate for adaptation.
Right. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Also, the folks, of course, who, Canon FD, AE1, 2, EOS, vice versa, all that kind of stuff. When you start getting into Nikon or other brands, I'm a little lost, but you can fill in.
Yeah. So speaking of which, being one of the easiest and most ubiquitous lens mounts to be adapted, Sean sent us actually like several M42 adapters. He sent us a couple of these, which are M42 to Canon EF.
Okay.
This is a great adaptation choice. So now you have the cheapest of both worlds. Cheap manual focus 35 lenses, one of these adapters, and now you can put it onto some of the most modern but inexpensive Canon EOS cameras.
We don't know how much.
Yeah, there's
Don't
no
know. You
tags on
didn't send
these.
prices?
But normally these PhotoDeox like bayonet style adapters, because it's a good strong metal mount.
Yeah,
they're usually
I
like
was
40,
thinking about
50 bucks. But like, look at that. That's machine
Oh, that's solid.
machine
And it's
aluminum.
nice polished
and
nickel
it's got
too.
it's-
Looks
yeah,
sharp.
and it's got the red Canon EF dot.
So you know where to put. Yep.
So lining up things, some of those like $12 no name ones that you can get on like Amazon, those are cheap and bend very easily.
Yes. Or strip easily.
Yes, that's one thing. You don't want to ruin both the camera and the lens because you cheaped out. So adapters, you want to, you don't want to go the cheapest option generally.
Now, when I actually hold the adapter in my hand, the first thing I think of is that $6 plastic one on Amazon that comes from China.
Yes.
And those are to be avoided?
Absolutely. Well, in my opinion, that's absolutely going to break off at some point.
Okay.
Especially on a solid M42 lens, that's going to like strip
Right.
something.
Oh, M42 screw in, yes.
You're doing metal to plastic to metal. It just doesn't make sense.
Exactly, that's the weak point.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
no, PhotoDeox is good. When I worked at the camera store at Midwest Photo for a decade, PhotoDeox was often the only solution on the market. Now, of course, there's hundreds and hundreds of different copycat brands. But PhotoDeox has just kind of like stayed consistently, in that nice sweet spot in the middle. He also sent he knows you too well, Mike. He sent a bunch of Canon stuff. So M42 to Canon FD.
Okay.
So now you can pop it onto an AE1.
There you go.
And again, these are like very simple flange adapters, so you're not really going to lose anything by popping these on there. You're not going to turn something into like instantly a macro lens. It'll just be usable on there within that mount. That's another thing to factor in. Going from SLR to other SLR isn't always possible, especially with like Nikons and stuff because of flange distance. But if you are trying to take old film lenses and maybe pop them on a mirrorless digital camera, that's like wide open. Because
whatever you want.
you have a shortened flange distance, so you can always adapt down. You just have to find the right size.
And you have live view.
So we also have a Pentax K to EF.
Amazing. Amazing.
Another great adapter. And again, these are like the simple bayonet. So we're kind of working our way up, guys. We have here we go. Nikon G to EOS Cine Pro. What's a
Whoa, what is
That's
that?
very wild.
What's a Cine Pro? So the Cine Pro is a specific lineup of adapters from PhotoDeox, which gives you this.
Oh, it's blue and black.
This has a bayonet lock. And this, because it's Nikon G, which then engages the aperture ring, you have little clicked markings on here so you can accurately stop down your
it's
lens.
1-to-1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's machined to be right there when you need it. It also has a little lever that threads
your
onto
cine.
this for your cine guys that need to
Whoa.
quickly stop down or open up.
And I'm sorry, what that adapter is where to who?
Nikon G to Canon EOS.
Okay.
So that's a fairly common one. Now Canon EOS is actually on its way. Done with donuts over there? Okay. Oh my god.
I wish I had a picture. I
Many
could,
sprinkles. But this is a popular target for some of the budget cine cameras, like the Blackmagic Pocket 6K camera.
Is EOS EF still being supported?
It is not,
What?
actually. I know, Mike. I delayed telling you because I knew this is exactly what happened. Canon
crying.
is all in on their RF mount. The EF mount is, I think it's officially discontinued now. They're no longer, now third parties, they're still cranking out stuff for EF. I would say in the digital era, EF is still the most widely supported lens, but now no longer by Canon. They're not servicing.
Did you send
they're not
any
doing,
Minolta adapters?
what's this one? Oh, this is another one of those Cine Pros.
I don't know.
with the
Sean
arm
looks
on.
like he might be in the Minolta gang.
No, they have Minolta adapters.
His Super
They've
8
got
maybe it
Pentax
might have been
adapters.
Minolta.
Yeah, hey,
I actually
Sean,
purchased
some
a-
of us are Minolta people, so
I actually
Feel
purchased
left
a Fujifilm Xmount adapter to get my Pentax K onto my Fuji camera. So there's a lot of good options out there. Now, this is just a smattering of the adapters. There's also 2 more Lux adapters that he sent over. These are these larger ones. Now, adapters don't just have to be metal to metal to change the mount. Some adapters may also offer an optical advantage, or maybe some sort of like creative edge. Some adapters need glass to start to convert the image circle, like a doubler or a reducing type lens. I don't know how many of those that PhotoDeox offers off the top of my head, but these are more creative Lux adapters. This one is very interesting. I didn't know they made this one. This one goes from M645 down to EOS, but interestingly enough, it also has a tool that cinematographers or people that wanted to do like short films with their digital cameras would really enjoy. It has an internal variable ND.
I love the variable ND.
So, Mike, when you saw this, you're like, well, aren't M645 lenses slower? Why would you want to put an ND on there? NDs in the cine world get pretty expensive. Having it always adapted, now any M645 lens, you don't need a different thread or a big square filter. Those are hundreds of dollars. This is already built in right at that nodal point. So the only downside to this is you got to keep this thing squeaky clean. Have that squeeze blower. Make sure it's buffed off with like
Between the two,
proper
yeah.
lens paper so it doesn't get any schmutz on it, because this will show up bright as day.
Schmutz is a Yiddish word meaning dirt.
Thank you.
I have to say the variable ND, for years I didn't know about the variable ND. For years I always carried around separate,
As I still do.
separate ND. Well, and for some cameras, there's
Some
proprietary-
wide angles, it's needed.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the variable, folks, if you didn't know, I'm now Mr. Raso's personal assistant.
Oh my God.
In addition to wiping his ass, I also have to grab his coffee and
Like,
his water.
oh, can you warm up my coffee?
He almost walked out, so I had to warm it
It's
up.
Fideli's fault. When he called you the analog kid, I'm like, oh, that's right. He is the kid. Owen.
So, my grandfather, when he was in the Korean War, and he was in like MASH units, like his nickname was the kid because he was always the youngest soldier. Anyway, the variable ND filter is great because you can adjust your ND stop up, stop down without having multiple filters.
So in addition to that, this is a truly crazy one.
That looks kind of expensive.
I might steal this one, Mike. This one is a tilt shift HB to EOS. So this is a tilt shift adapter
Nobody's
that
listening
allows you to listen up, kids. This is pretty freaking sweet. This goes from a Hasselblad bayonet mount.
Oh. So you own a Hasselblad lens.
I own everything this thing works on. Yeah. Takes a Hasselblad lens. It's got the markings right there. And you can tell it's a Hasselblad lens because it has that nice big square right in there. But this is a tilt shift adapter. So
What does that mean?
So tilt shift is the ability to change the position of the lens from flush to maybe we're tilting it in one direction forward, side to side, and this gives you some insane perspective and creative focus control. This could be really cool for architecture, but
Give us a visual example.
So let's say I'm taking a picture of a very, very tall building, but I'm not up on a giant ladder or halfway out the building.
You're on the ground.
Yeah, you get that keystoning effect, right? Where the stuff closer to you is bigger and the stuff further away from you is shrinking.
Yep.
Using a tilt shift lens, I could attempt to correct that perspective
Okay.
by either rising the lens up to make it look like I'm higher than I am, or even applying some vague, like different tilts to start to try to change.
Can I
that
just
focus.
use AI?
God damn it. Get out.
All right, so that adapter's anywhere
How
from
much?
$77 to $100.
That's actually not
That's not
bad.
bad, considering
Most tilt shift
how- I mean, look
adapters
how-
start at $200.
Look how engineered that is.
This
that's
is
not-
sweet. It's got machining for rotating along the mount, so you can tilt whatever direction you need to. There's degree markings on there, so you know how many millimeters you
Right.
are shifted. This is a really cool creative
I've never seen
option.
anything like it.
When you're using tilt shift, this is a really fun thing to use. So a lot of people don't know that tilt shift lenses are still employed in everyday commercial photography and cinematography because that's my day job. I assist photo and video sets. A lot of modern product photography that you've seen on major billboards. There's one here in town that a photographer I worked for shot
Used a tilt shift.
used a tilt shift.
Wow.
Wendy's hamburgers.
Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's the beef?
At Wendy's, we serve a hamburger we modestly call a single. And Wendy's single has more beef than the Whopper or Big Mac. At Wendy's, you get more beef and less bun.
Hey, where's the beef?
How many food stylists on a Wendy's hamburger?
2.
In camera, doing tilt shift.
In camera
You're
tilt
shooting
shift.
dig so you can see your results.
But you're
Does-
controlling your focus plane.
Does
Yeah.
the client chimp over people's shoulders?
Well, no,
or-
we give them a feed from the computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't want they don't breathe on the set.
okay.
Because food stylists, you cannot interrupt or like whatever, you can't interrupt the set. So they're off to the side. They will bug you about the most mundane crap and then argue amongst themselves. But
Right.
generally they have a different feed. They like my job as an assistant most of the time or a digitech cannot touch the computer
Right.
because they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Like they could actually like delete the set or whatever. Like they're not allowed to touch the computer. They can see it, and if they want something, they can ask me for it.
So we're talking about artistry here
Sorry.
because we're doing things in camera, which for me is always the beauty of cinematography or photography.
Yeah.
When you're doing your in camera.
And like real professional work that still exists to this day. Don't let people tell you it's dead. Uses this stuff like a real working pro that knows what they're doing.
Yep.
This is easier than going in and individually attempting to
Absolutely.
correct
Yeah,
stuff.
it's gotta be.
Like I always joke, but the most famous last words that you can utter on a set where you are being paid as a professional is, "We'll fix it in post." Like, no, we will not.
AI.
Well, no one should say that.
No,
If
it's
you're going to
so
say
bum.
it, you say it quietly to your assistant or, like,
Yes,
you
but-
don't want anybody to know that.
No, it's such a bum thing because then they're like, "Well, what are we paying?"
Have you
this
ever
guy
heard
for?"
it on the set?
Yes.
Oh, you hear all
And
the time.
I'll my
You'll trip them.
one of my lead photographers when he says it, I'll like give him one of those, like give him the elbow.
You hear it in still studios now too.
Still in video and now in motion. That's also like a reason why some new like very high budget blockbuster films don't have that same oomph. Is they're just shooting everything against blue and green. And they're sending it to a post house, and now their budgets are exploding because they're doing all this extra post, but there's no life to it the same
No
way.
soul.
Yeah.
What about Life Aquatic guy? What's his name?
Guillermo del Toro?
No,
No,
Anderson?
No,
sorry.
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. Sorry.
Is Wes Anderson doing in-camera stuff?
He's doing a ton of in-camera stuff. Mostly, yeah. He's
He's
still shooting on film.
I didn't really care for the last film he shot on Ektachrome. I didn't care for the look.
Wait,
look
which one?
Post the most recent one.
The town one.
Yes.
Yeah.
You mean the one with the space with the aliens?
Yes.
You didn't like that?
I didn't like the look of it.
Really?
I'm very picky. I like if someone's like, "Oh, you have to watch this series," I will shut it off because of color grading.
Time to wake this show up.
I'm watching something. I'm like,
Seems like he does.
Why? I'll just talk out loud to the TV. I'm like, why is this entire scene washed over with cyan? Like, there's nothing good about this.
Yeah.
It's just anyhow. Don't.
No,
get me
but like a
started.
lot of modern films, that's the thing that pulls people out. Like because the cameras and the post production can do anything,
There's no reason to have it.
they're not doing anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they're doing everything and
Exactly.
It looks like nothing.
All right. What else is in the box?
So in addition to all
lighting, or we're still talking filters.
we're
We're still talking adapters.
Well, we're done with the adapters.
If you're still listening, we're here.
Yeah, PhotoDeox has a ton of great adapters. Thanks for sending those, Sean. He also sent in a variety of lighting tools, and these are all continuous LED lights. Now, for the folks at home, if you are doing stuff maybe with your smartphone or like a modern digital camera that has like a higher ISO or sensitivity, you could use this stuff for stills, but this is really well geared for something like cinematography, where you have continuous, 24 frames a second that you have to have every frame lit up. So Sean sent a variety of LED. Some of these you can call like torch lights or little wink lights. Others are a little bit bigger. They're larger panels.
The one I'm holding in my hand.
The one, so Sean sent us 2 of these Radius Pico Mini.
Is that like a 3x5, did you say?
Yeah, about.
Traditionally, and correct me, I don't know if this still goes on.
Yeah.
Wedding shooters who are shooting stills would have a little constant light on top of their camera because they needed focus. So you're in a dark wedding hall. Now, this may be outdated.
Yeah, they don't do it as much anymore. But
Not too much?
Some still do, yeah.
You just want to...
For digital?
For digital, just because they...
You want to see your subject.
They don't want to use the shot ruiner, the AF light blinking, so they'll just have a weak LED so you can catch focus. But these new cameras, they can focus at like -5 EV, so it doesn't matter.
Just fix it in post.
But these little LED lights, every single one of these that PhotoDeox sent over, they're LED, so they're cool lights. Yep. They're bicolor.
Which means what?
Bicolor generally means you can change the color temperature. So
I'll show you right now.
Yeah, the Radius Pico Mini goes all the way down from cool light, so your 5600 Kelvin cool light, all the way down to warm or your tungsten light source at 3200 Kelvin. Other nice thing about these units, they are, well, the largest one isn't, but the handheld one that Mike has is rechargeable, lithium-ion battery, takes a USB Type-C, and it ships with a little Type-A to Type-C 5-volt cable. Now you want
5 volt is the important
5 volt low amperage, like 1 amp or something. You don't want to charge this with one of those fast USB chargers.
You get smoke that would come
you
out.
could get some magic smoke that
like
comes
yesterday?
out of one. I don't know. I mean, I just have lots of experience ruining products, not just Sean's. But charge this with like the slow USB Type C charger. Any standard cheap USB brick will charge this well. Now, Mike, first thing he says, great, I can hook it up to my laptop. Folks, don't hook up a rechargeable battery system that you don't know what circuit board's in there to your computer.
This is news to me. So this was like the whole weekend of us sitting here recording. It was all worth it just to get this information because I'm frequently plugging all sorts of things. Just plug it in the laptop.
Don't do it because when voltage hits the fan in there, it will backfeed into your expensive thing, and it does not take a lot of excess voltage to fry your laptop.
I'm not liking that.
Sean sent 2 other lights in addition to those tiny Radius Pico Minis. He sent us the next size up, which is called the Radius Go. Now, this one, Mike, you mentioned like weddings. I could see this being more applicable for small sets, weddings, couples, things like that, because it's a much wider panel. This one is about, I'd say, like 8 by 14 inches, something like that. So what's nice about these, both of these Radius lights, they're called that because there's a slight arc to it.
Why would I want an arced?
Oh, just sit down with it.
Sit down.
So what I'm doing, folks, like while Matt is talking, I'm like, channeling for how much? What is this called?
This is called the Radius Go LED.
And does it come with that remote? So Matt's also got like a little remote with a screen on it.
Yes, it comes with a little Bluetooth remote that actually charges via the back right there. The Bluetooth remote turns on and off. This is actually a pretty common feature. I didn't know that. A bunch of the Godox lights have had this for years. Laura has Godox key lights for her streaming setup, and she has this under her desk. So when it's time to stream,
discreetly.
she can just turn the thing on. The nice thing about the Radius Go,
what size is that?
This is like 8 by 14 inches, something like that.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. The nice thing is about what it takes. It takes a Type-C, a higher wattage Type-C, so only use the one that it came with because of the limitations. A phone charger probably won't do it.
Yep.
You don't want to mix and match. But this one also takes, which is really cool, it takes a pair of very ubiquitous Sony NP-F batteries.
Cameras, right?
Yeah. These batteries have been around for over 20 years.
Yep.
Very inexpensive. Everybody sells them. They even sell NP-F adapters, so you could actually pop in 8 AA batteries to run this light for about an hour.
1450. Okay.
And what's on the top there? Is that a cold shoe?
It's got a cold shoe mount on the top and the bottom, so you could potentially stack units or
Okay.
thread it like I have to the mini tripod.
Or
This
you could put-
tripod
I mean,
also
yeah.
comes with it.
Oh,
so
tripod
you can
comes
use
with
it as
it.
like a little handle. I would say as it is, I mean, we're shining it at 25% power. It's
pretty bright.
And it's plenty
Give
bright
us
for
100.
us in
Let's
here.
see. Oh, I want to see.
He asked
Flip it back.
for
Let me
it.
see the number in the back.
That's pretty bright.
Can I see the
Oh, go 1450.
Radius Go 1450.
It's nowhere near as bright as my movie lights, but it's up there.
No, it's about 200 watt equivalent.
Okay.
Is what it's outputting, which is fine.
Yeah, well, that's. I mean, for modern movie.
Modern
maybe,
movie, I mean,
yeah.
any camera.
Anything over 100 ASA.
Yeah.
B&H offers it 129.95.
That's a great price.
This is
for that.
this is a lot closer. I would say $100 is like yeah, this is good for $100
that's a
because
good price.
most battery lights that take two of these are over 100.
And whether
This is what. Sorry, not.
no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
This
Go ahead.
doesn't make sense. This is $92
Oh,
for $30 more. I can get that.
I think that was a bunk Amazon listing.
okay. We're gonna find out,
Right,
folks.
because there's no way that is just $30 more than this.
Yeah, because this is like 4 times as powerful.
well, I mean that you can't hand hold.
You can. It takes batteries.
Oh, okay.
It's not internal. That has an internal battery.
I like that.
So, folks, these are great options, regardless of. I mean, whatever your movie making.
Oh,
That's
but wait, there's more. We also were sent a tube.
I like that.
Now, this is the Prismo Stick 512.
Stick it.
Prismo.
This is a 14 watt tube style light. Now, tube style lights, I would say over the last 5-6 years
Yeah, I see them everywhere.
are very, very popular because they're colorful. They're programmable. And this one is no different. It's got a switch on the side. It takes USB Type-C. It's internal battery. I juiced it up a little bit. And I didn't break this one.
How many watts?
This one's 14 watts.
Okay.
So that means you...
But like, I'm so sorry. Like the tube. Like you had
Why
a
the
tu-
tube?
You had a tube last meetup.
Yes.
You brought a tube. Like, do you just hold it in your hand like a wand?
I'm sticking it like that. Yeah.
Is that what people? You can't mount it on a tripod.
You can.
Oh,
It's quarter 20 threaded on the bottom.
80 bucks.
That's fine.
I
These tube
think
lights
that's
are good.
okay.
Now, the nice thing about this is full RGB, and it's got a touchscreen. The other cool thing is, look at this. There's a little...
A wheel?
Oh, the wheel doesn't do it.
It doesn't do anything.
But you have different...
Doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything.
You have different light settings. This is lightning.
Really? Why would you want lightning?
Why wouldn't you want
This is
lightning?
police. So this
Oh,
is,
this party light or is this a practical light?
this is a practical. It's a dupe practical. So now you have police outside the window. You can...
Oh,
Be creative,
Now,
Mike.
my favorite one is like fire sets or like fireplaces. It says candlelight, so basically it'll
to flicker?
it'll
Look
flicker.
at that. It really is
Fireworks.
2025.
Faulty bulb. This one I hate these ones, but yeah,
oh.
faulty
Like if you're
bulb is
shooting
good.
your David Lynch type film.
Yeah.
Yes.
With your fluorescence.
Oh, it has fluorescent. If you want nasty
That's- okay,
fluorescent,
yeah.
it flickers at the rate that will show up in the ear.
Wow.
So this is the Prismo Stick
Prismo.
512. Now, of course, in addition to all these crazy RGBs, there is your basic. That's bicolor.
You know, I tell you why I find this all interesting because if you want lighting and you search it and you go, let's just say you go to B&H, the amount of choices is mind-boggling.
Lighting is a very saturated market. So
Yeah.
it's never a thing of will I be able to find lighting?
Right.
Is
What do I get?
what are you getting, and is it going to match what you're trying to do?
Right.
A lot of people will see the fun-looking LED RGB tube lights, but then they want to shoot something where there's multiple people.
Yeah, not gonna work.
This is something that lights a person, but it's usually something that's accenting some like a background or a detail in the shot. We don't even use these in product because it's just not enough.
Yeah.
That's where you're looking at larger panel style lights, or my favorite type of lights, which are your cob lights or your chip on board, where instead of all these tiny little chips that are on this Pico Mini, they're a giant chip. So the chip is like this whole size of this panel.
That's big bucks.
Those they can get into. There's companies that make them that are in the hundreds that are really good.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And
It's
what do you-
come down significantly.
Okay, yeah.
And each individual, you call them diodes?
Yeah,
LEDs.
correct. Your
And
LEDs, yeah.
do they poop out? Like you'll have a dead diode?
You have to have insane use times to burn out LEDs. But the other cool thing is on a multi-diode panel,
replace them.
if one dies, you literally just like bypass it, and then the rest of it works again.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you take it out of series.
Yeah,
basically.
you just like solder it off, and it works. The other thing about the diodes is they generally, especially the ones that have like IP ratings, so they're rated for more like heavy duty environments. Usually, you're talking thousands of hours.
Yeah.
So some of those larger, more professional cob lights, I will have running on set 9-10 hours the whole day. And basically, like, we go to lunch, we don't turn anything off because it's so
Right.
cheap.
Yep.
And nothing's actually heating up.
Right.
You don't want to touch it directly,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
they're so much better than the old hot lights of days past. So none of these are halogen burning lamps. You used to have to, Mike, I'm sure you remember this. You'd have to wear your UV gloves on
God,
set
yeah.
to like,
Your low budget,
Handle-
your Lowell kits,
Asbestos gloves.
yeah,
your D-Light, your
Todas.
Toda.
Yeah.
Is there any practical use for those, what do you call them?
Hot lights?
Hot lights these days?
I mean,
Does anyone seek them out?
no, and you shouldn't. And the reason you shouldn't is they're too hot, they're energy inefficient, and they just introduce more problems than the person that's looking to use them wants.
Right.
So if you're like, somebody has handed me Total Lights before, and I've just like instantly gotten rid of them. They're not.
Yeah.
You'd have to,
They're not
They're
worth it.
you'd have
literally,
to pry my brownie movie lights out of my cold deck.
they're literally
Fire
hot
hazards.
lights. They not only can burn you, but they actually heat up the room.
They do, yeah, and that's why like they're called hot lights because you will be
Right.
sweating.
I think the exception are the Kodak movie lights, which you could buy for almost nothing. People just give them to you. The classic light bar,
Right.
which, I mean, that's you using those as a novelty.
Yes. Oh, I use them all the time because the LED lights I have
Yeah.
aren't hot enough for
Oh.
40 ASA indoors.
Yeah,
They're just, they're
the
not.
only exceptions I would say are like the classic old Mole Richardson hot lights. Those just look cool. Like the housing for them looks cool. People even like just take the guts out of it and then
put regular.
put a lamp in it.
We have a 10K. Do you want it?
no,
Mo Richardson 10K?
no, it's too damn much. I look at my power bill already.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's the other thing about LEDs. They are wildly efficient.
Yeah.
Usually to the tune of 2 to 5x.
Right. Yeah.
So-
But, like nowadays, you don't really have to worry about turning lights off in your house anymore. I mean,
No, you just let them run. And I have all smart home stuff, so
Right,
it just
exactly.
minimal wattage draw. So
it's not your grandpa's bulbs anymore, folks.
no, but folks that are looking for their first light for now, if this is still photography, remember, still photography, we are taking a very, very, very small fraction of a second. So you need much, much more light. That's why strobes are probably still a better option, though they may be more intimidating. But if you want an LED that does the same job, now you're spending so much more, and your subject is going to be kind of annoyed by how much light you're throwing on them the whole time.
Squinting, not great for a model.
Exactly.
I still prefer to use constant light, like if I'm shooting. Like,
Yeah,
remember
it's
the
just a
old
lot.
Butler set?
yeah.
But you're using constant light and then you're strobing when you
No.
need it. No,
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 it's
you
the
just-
whole
okay.
whole
No,
way.
I basically light the character.
Like it. Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, the more I never want to talk down to how anybody does anything, but there's an increasing number of commercial sets for photo and video where they will bring in an insane amount of constant light and just light it like that because some of their shooters don't know how to strobe.
Oh, it's an art to strobe properly.
Yeah, I would say a dying one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So even kids coming out of school are not being taught.
Really,
Yeah.
this whole world's going to shit.
Is it also because the LED lighting scene is so inexpensive to use that you?
It's so dirt cheap. Bulbs don't burn out. After just a certain number of years, the lights are so much more inexpensive that they just
Right.
replace the whole thing. Who cares?
Yeah, just
course-
throw in a landfill.
And of course, we're not going to even talk about lighting a set, or if you're shooting a short film and you're in even a small room where your camera is, even if you're just panning over to another character, is like so many things to consider. The room, not only that, the window, what's going on outside, the window coming in. I mean, it's when you watch programming on TV that is practically lit, or classic films, it's magical to me. Of a well lit movie.
Yeah. There's
You think anybody's still listening at this point?
I don't know. Yeah, two people. Or watch a Francis Ford Coppola movie where he used Gordon Willis, like Godfather, where the studios were actually giving Coppola shit because they didn't like the styles. Oh, it's too dark, like classic, oh no, that's too dark.
I think I sent you a YouTube video. A kid who had a good video about shadows.
He definitely had an interesting take, calling like the Parent Trap remake like a classic.
I 100% agree with him.
Wait, okay, who's this kid and who's
I can't remember the name.
It's a YouTube deep dive about like lighting in like the pre-digital versus today, and why films today don't have the same type of look.
But the guy who shot the Parent, we're talking about the 1998 remake of the classic Parent Trap
with young Lindsay Lohan, yeah.
Which that was my
Jamie Lee Curtis.
No.
Oh.
No, that's Freaky
That was
Friday.
Freaky Friday.
Oh, Freaky Friday.
Which is the remake?
They're having a sequel. Oh my god.
That movie for me, just nostalgic for me because I was a kid when that came out, and I remember going to the theaters and seeing it. But when he said that, he's absolutely right. That was probably the last traditionally lighted and shot movies at least of my generation.
Yeah.
The Parent Trap.
But he goes into the approach of how they lit for like the more limited film stocks and shooting scenarios than they did today.
Right.
Is it Patrick Tomaso's "Why Don't Movies Look Like Movies Anymore"?
Yes. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, folks listening, you go right back to 1998 and watched Patrick Tomaso on YouTube. Why don't movies look like movies anymore? And you guys both independently found this?
It's good. He found it, sent it to me.
But no one sent it to me.
Well, now you're looped.
You never read any of the shit.
But now you're on the group chat, so like you're in the millimeter club now.
Oh, I watched the Orson Welles video you said.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Dean Cundy.
He's the cinematographer?
Yes, and he did, let's see, Honey, We Shrunk the Kids. He did The Fog. He did Halloween 3, Halloween 2, The Thing. What else did he do? He did The Flintstones. He did the original Halloween. He did Psycho, Death Becomes Her, Back to the Future 3. I mean, Romancing the Stone.
Oh, classics.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was no joke. Project X.
Right.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Okay.
Oh, when you said
Jurassic Park.
When you said Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I was like, whatever. And then you said the thing, I was like, oh, that makes sense now.
How dare you? Honey, you Shrunk the Kids.
No, but I'm
Hook.
just...
He did Hook.
No, but I'm just saying, like, when you state it in a vacuum, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. But now you're saying it in the scale of all those other things, and it makes sense because of, like, how things look.
And
how,
the
how it tells the story.
1995 masterpiece Casper.
Okay.
Movie. Hey, got it on Laserdisc. It's great.
I still want that laser disc.
You're gonna get. I'm not taking them to Germany. They're not pals, so you can have them.
Hell yeah.
What's next?
We're talking about
Color grading.
color grading.
Oh.
Well, this is the perfect
Can we
segment.
take a break?
Yeah,
One more thing about practicals.
Yes.
My favorite fun little tool on set, Mike, and I've only ever gotten to use it a few times because
Your vape.
I feel also RGB. My favorite tool to sell people on. You never stop being a salesman once you stop.
Willie Loman.
Yeah, you're always selling. But now as an assistant, and oftentimes sometimes I'll be doing lighting, grip, best boy, AC. But a lot of times when I'm doing like lighting and grip on a set, I'm always selling people on, no, we need to get this. They sell this, or they rent out this perfect little case now, Mike. And it's a Pelican case. And depending on the size, it can have 9, 16, or even more. And they're all little Edison screw-in RGB LEDs that all talk to each other wirelessly. And they're little screw-in practicals. So when you go and you light a room, of course your key light's going to be however you set it up. But now I can go in and I can replace all the bulbs.
Yes.
And now everything is perfectly the same color or in sync or doing what I want it to do with the effects. I love practicals. And now that I've done more setting things up, I am less kind of like you, I'm less forgiving of when I see like a shitty practical being used, or like, why didn't they light that? Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. What about gels for windows?
Not as big anymore.
No?
You fix it in post.
Well, no. Like if you have a window, do you see shows where it just falls off and like it's blue outside?
Yes, but like now the other thing that they can control, because a lot of that is, even if it's set, the LEDs coming in can change color and stuff too. But no, if I see a blown window, that's ridiculous. Now that I am now being flung back 15 years to some of the first real estate photography gigs I was assisting on, Mike, and we still used, me and Professor Jeff and a couple other guys I would work for, I would carry around the giant roll of gel and tape it to the outside of windows.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want to, especially if it's a model home that they just paid someone like $2,000 to stage this big home, you're not allowed to be walking around everywhere, like setting up lights, dragging in things. So you have to do existing light on that property. And sometimes that's the only way to get the dynamic range down. Now they do is HDR it. I mean, they're doing phone walkthroughs now. But like back when that quality mattered, and most of those were like $500,000 listings. They were not, you called a crew, right? But yeah, we were gelling windows. So that was more of an aspect of exposure balance, but now it can also be in the color balance.
Okay.
Picture it all again. All of the times you shared back then. Kodak film, because time goes by.
Hey, we're back.
No, we're not.
Podcast at filmphotographyproject.com, if anyone's listening. What do we got?
Why is my footage green?
Oh,
Wipe the boogers off your lens.
there's a number of reasons why your footage is green. You could be shooting on expired stock. You could be shooting in a room that's lit by fluorescent color temperature lights, and you didn't. I mean, even if you're shooting digital, I mean, if you're not balancing your, if you're not
it looks fine
balancing-
on my phone. What the heck, Mike?
I think we need to take a step back.
Oh, that person. Well,
There's two types of film, right? Color film, right?
oh yes,
Let's go. Yeah, let's go.
Daylight
all the way
and
back.
tungsten.
Right. So what does that mean?
Yeah, what do they do?
that means, and I have practical experiences with me. And back in my ghoul school days,
This was 60.
stop it, 90. So. There would be like competition amongst all the gangs that were shooting low budget independent films. And we'd always watch each other's films. Sometimes we'd actually see like rough cuts. And me as a cinematographer, I've always been a film snob. Always. When I would see a shot, especially like bold walking through shots, you're walking through various rooms, and I would see all of a sudden the green, the fluorescent. I'd be like, a snob about it, because I know that they could have easily gel that light so that fluorescent would then match the color temperature of everything else they're shooting. So Owen mentioned, what types of film? So, and I also talk about this all the time to FPP film shooters who are shooting Super 8, because there's the T tungsten indoor light color temperature film, and then you have your D daylight, which is for daylight, and
Meaning the sun,
yes,
right, or lighting that is made to replicate sunlight.
Yeah, cool light or direct sunlight. Yeah.
And I just break it down to the simplest, easiest way to remember these things. Cool light, daylight is essentially blue to your eye, because your eye is always adjusting, and your indoor light tends to go warm to yellow, orange, and once again your eyes balance that. And I guess the funniest thing, or the funniest application of this, is in my condo building, which I'm on the condo board. People started noticing that in the hallway there was there were different bulbs in the whole long
That's
hallway.
so annoying. Yes.
And people were like, I don't understand. Like they didn't know what it
tripping
was.
over themselves looking at these bulbs.
They didn't know what it was, but they knew it didn't. They made the hallway look cheap.
Yeah.
Because you had all these tungsten orange bulbs and then one or two blue bulbs.
They just bought whatever. Yeah.
And we fixed it.
You fixed it to be tungsten.
I had to write a letter to management explaining with a little grid, actual picture of, and they're like, what bulb should we buy?
Right.
And then we placed
Because back in the day, right, before LEDs,
Yep.
it was, there was one type of bulb.
You just looked up the size, you bought it.
Right, and it was incandescent.
Yep.
And that all changed. Now we have different colors of lighting. And
Consumers have so much choice now.
right.
Too much. Yeah.
And when I look into somebody's, like if I'm driving at night or I'm walking in my neighborhood and I look into somebody's house,
Some
and
people's houses are blue.
yes,
It's
I
weird.
I think
eerie.
those people are insane. I think something's wrong.
They don't know. They're not sensitive to it.
I can't I get
They're
a headache.
Yeah, they might be sick.
Yeah. But anyway, this is a really important topic because I think people get really confused now that we don't typically have incandescent.
Now that the convenience also
Right.
of correction is automatically being taken care of in a majority of consumer cameras.
And also because indoors, again, like I was saying back in the day, if you were indoors and you were in your house, you were using tungsten light, period.
Right.
There was no. Nowadays, it might be tungsten, it might be cooler,
daylight,
it might be daylight. So people really don't. You really need to understand. And I think Mike, you did a great job at saying if it's blue, you're dealing with cooler lighting. If
Right.
it's warm, you're dealing with daylight lighting. So,
But some people, as you mentioned, you walk by and you see a blue house. Honestly, that person doesn't care.
they probably don't.
I mean, it's perfectly fine. We're not
And they can shoot daylight film forever and they'll
there
be
you
fine.
go. Right.
right. So some people just really don't care. A light is a light. They're not even seeing the color temperature.
Yeah, and it does take a little bit of shooting experience to train yourself to see
Right.
it, because like you said, Mike, our eyes are very, very good at adapting to that. Think of it, all of our sunglasses. None of us have like really expensive, super neutral sunglasses. They probably all have some sort of light color cast to them. I just recently, like on the highway, I had like a cheap pair of glasses. I lost my good ones. The cheap pair of glasses, if I don't have them pushed against my nose all the way, I noticed they actually get warmer towards the top and cooler towards the bottom. So it like grades the warmth on there, but it really throws you off if you sway or move your head too much. So I'm like, oh, I got to get some new sunglasses.
Traditionally, what color was? I just know from high school when I would shoot basketball games that those halogen.
Those were halogens, yeah.
And
Or sodium vapor.
and they leaned green, right?
Fluorescence would lean green. The only other ones, some halogens would have green, but a lot of sodiums were yellow.
Yeah.
And have they been replaced also with LED? Are these
Many of them, yeah. Not the really big like stadium lights. Those are probably the most expensive to replace.
Are they daylight stadium lights nowadays? When you go to you go to an NFL game and that whole stadium is completely
It's white. Yeah.
it's white light.
It's rough. Yeah.
So it's daylight.
A lot of them, but then the more it's weird. I've always explained this to angry or dissatisfied customers at the camera store. The conundrum of sports photography is the most professional sports are the best lit.
Sure.
The things that you want to capture are the absolute worst lit unless you are going to a very high-end D1 school.
Sure.
So the last lighting package to be upgraded in a school is probably the pool.
Right.
Is probably the wrestling room.
Yep.
Those are going to be the poorest lit, and they might also be the weakest lit. So you will need a faster lens, those lower f-stops, and or a flash or LED light, something like that. And you'll have to be cognizant of your white balance or your color balance. So that's kind of what we're getting at here, folks, is if you're shooting... Well, let's just start with stills film, because this happens in stills and movie.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
movie... people kind of know they're going to be correcting for it, but maybe in stills they should know that they're going to be correcting for it more.
Well, but Ektachrome is a great example in still film of if you're not used to shooting and that's a daylight balanced film, that's what the D means. If you're not, you've been shooting Portrait or Color Plus or traditional C41 negative still film, not vision film, and all of a sudden you're going to move to daylight balanced Ektachrome.
It's more sensitive.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you've ever shot Ektachrome inside under tungsten lighting and you're wondering why all your negatives look your
Positives,
slides,
yeah.
the color looks off. That's why. So you're absolutely right. It does exist in still film.
But even in color negative, I think auto white balance on a lot of digital cameras has taught people to just say, oh, well, I can
fix it in post.
Yeah, I can just hit the auto white balance and get there. And yes, the auto white balance will attempt to do that. But you're removing more information that might render other like very unique colors and subtle palettes like just completely gone in the shot. You can white balance your way out of a good picture,
right?
Like very, very quickly.
That's a good point.
I would really recommend, if you are going to get practiced in shooting your film and giving yourself the best chance possible to get a clean shot, if you find yourself shooting in mixed lighting,
And that's the most difficult.
look at the predominant source. So like right now, here, folks, here in our makeshift Bowling Green studio that we're shooting in, we have mixed light. Yep. We have indoor light that I have meticulously made sure is all 3,800 Kelvin, because that's what these warm lights that are in the hotel room are. So everything is 3,800 Kelvin except for this darn window light, because it's a super dreary, cloudy day. Yep. And this window is giving us this very, very cool backdrop. So we have 6,500 Kelvin blue light and then all this internal warm light.
Yep.
It's not bad though, because it's not real. This window is not really a key light for anybody. Yep. It's just this kind of interesting blue accent light. If that was our main lighting source, it might be worth it to switch to a daylight film. But since it's kind of our accent and we're mostly shooting with tungsten films in here, our main lighting source is our tungsten, so our skin tones look accurate.
Matt and Owen, does everyone need to bone up on this? Like, is it so? Let's say your wedding shooter who's shooting on Super 8.
Yes.
Is it okay for them just to shoot and find a trusted, developed scan outfit that will basically handle their film? Because I know here at FPP, when your film comes in, especially if it's a wedding, we cover your butt, we color grade. So you take your tungsten film outside to shoot a wedding that's going on in the garden, we'll grade it and we'll fix it. So shooter doesn't need to know anything.
Well, I think let's summarize a little bit, because I feel like we're getting a little technical. If somebody's just tuning in for the first time, we've talked about the fact that there's two types of color negative film. Daylight balance, which means it's made to be
wants
used,
blue light.
Blue light. And then there's tungsten balance. Which Tungsten.
We should rename it.
Tuggy?
Tungsten.
So there's that type of film. And the lighting that you use with those types of film is going to affect the quality of the color in the film itself.
The finished image.
Yes.
So in other words, if you're shooting a daylight film, you want to shoot with daylight light. And if you're shooting with tungsten light, you want to shoot with tungsten light. The reason why that matters, back in the day before digital scanning, typically negative film would have been printed, or in other words, sort of transferred onto a positive film stock that would then be shown in a movie theater or whatever. And it was important to make sure that you were using the light source, because there was no other way, or no other really efficient way to correct that.
You couldn't spot correct things.
Couldn't spot correct it to make the print.
You basically had to change everything, the overall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you have multiple scenes, multiple lighting types, so nowadays we have digital lighting, or digital scanning. And what Mike is talking about is if you're shooting, let's say 50D, but you're shooting it under tungsten lighting in a studio, and you get it processed by the FPP, for example, Dave, who's our colorist, will in post scanning will fix that color for you. But if you are going to a lab and you've done that, you've shot a daylight film in a studio under tungsten lighting, and they give you a flat scan, unless you are a colorist, which we all agree that's an art form, you're going to have a hell of a time adjusting that image, because it's not going to look right in the flat scan. So that's kind of where we're just a level set for folks who.
And I'm like, every time you hear me talk, I am always advocating for try to fix it in camera, because the only thing it's going to cost you is a few filters and a little bit of time.
So let's talk about, so how do you fix it in camera?
Yeah.
So I've got 50D loaded up in my Super 8 camera, but it turns out, maybe it's raining outside, so we're going to shoot inside, and now I'm under tungsten lighting. What do I do?
Well, you're going to pray that the lighting's bright enough for 50D.
Yeah.
Because, and this is why I actually have a recommendation for that. If you are I don't know where I'm going to be shooting the next day person, and we'll get to that. But for example, that 50D, you're going to have to warm up that, you have to cool that footage. Exactly.
And what if I can't?
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
I mean, personally, like I shoot 100D at my parents' Sunday pasta. I like it because I'm getting a warmer image, orangey
Well, yeah. I mean,
image.
let's be clear, right? Do whatever, right? Like, there's no rules, so you do whatever you want,
right?
But if you're trying to,
but I'm doing it on purpose,
right?
Right.
But if you're trying to get a more traditional, more technically perfect image, right?
Yep.
So you would use. In this case, you would use a blue filter.
80 filter.
An 80 cooling filter.
Which is, and it freaks people out. I remember when I first shot with it, the first time I was so paranoid that, because it is a blue, it is cobalt blue.
Yeah.
And I was paranoid. I'm like, oh, it's going to come out
But
blue.
we're really geeking out here because I can tell you no one's doing this. I'm a really
using an
geeking
80 filters?
No way.
I disagree.
Telling you.
I've got the whole series, Mike.
Yeah, but you do. I
know.
do. You do.
Right.
But your average Super 8 shooter.
That's what we're here for, Mike.
No, but we're trying to encourage it. Like, and I'm.
But is it really necessary in a world where that footage is going to be scanned and color graded?
Put shit in, you get shit out.
Yes.
That's life.
So here's my recommendation for that.
Okay.
When you take the effort to
Mike's
do
getting
that,
agitated.
when you take the effort to do that in camera by pre-filtering, it's going to help you learn. It's going to help you learn your camera settings a little bit better. It's going to help you learn how to compensate for inadequate lighting situations. And you're just going to prepare you to do things like push and pull film, which, let's face it, people love pushing and pulling because it's just a buzzword. So it's a technique, but it's a buzzword in there. So it's going to help you practice doing that, but it's also going to give you as much good information to start. Editing, it's called editing, not editing. Editing is always taking away. So Mike, here's your footage, right? This is your basket of sweets. If you don't filter it, Dave's going to throw out all of this stuff. That's what you're left with. You're actually going to have less pixels, less information, less good stuff to make your finished picture. So what if you need to make corrections beyond that?
Oh,
You got to start. Yeah. Another way to imagine this for the folks at home that don't have a bunch of candy in front of them is the classic Parker Brothers game, Plinko, or not Plinko, Kerplunk. You have two cups and a bunch of wooden pegs that are holding up a marble. Kind of, yeah. I'm sure somebody's made it in Minecraft. You have a bunch of marbles at the top and a bunch of sticks, and you keep pulling out sticks until it all falls. Editing is just is pulling those sticks
out,
and eventually you're gonna all that good information, those marbles, is gonna fall out, and those are your pixels, those are your grains.
And if if you're somebody who is going to a lab that maybe doesn't have a colorist, or maybe they it's not as good,
or they have a budget option that just sends you whatever.
You're not going to get as good of an image. That's the reality.
Does if a movie film shooter know what they're looking at by the number of reels that are posted on social media, where you see like a flat scan?
People don't know. And some people like the flat scan look. I don't know why.
Wait, what's a flat scan?
So a flat scan is kind of what we were talking about. You get your film processed, somebody scans it, and then they just hand you the raw footage without making any adjustments to the coloring of the image.
The footage is scanned at a beautiful spot where it can be color graded. So whites are not clipped, blacks are not crushed. It's proper. Yep. But it's not graded.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And there's no such thing as a major motion picture film that has not been color graded.
Exactly. So, you are never allowed to see it until it's gone through many sets of well-paid eyes.
Before we forget, going back to the filter, right? So we have an 80 filter for if you're shooting daylight film under tungsten lighting.
For cooling that warm footage. Yeah.
But now if I take my 500T and my Super 8 camera, go outside and shoot in the daylight, I need a different type of filter, which is
85B. Yep.
And that is an orangey sort of cast filter.
Yes.
And one thing I didn't know until very recently was that there's actually different grades of 85 filter.
There's multiple. There's like 4 very common ones.
Now that I would agree, that's getting geeky. That, you know what I mean? Like,
that's getting a little precise, but some folks want that.
Your color temperature meter, you go outside, you see what level of daylight you have.
Yes.
Because as the day wears on, the light gets warmer towards the...
Cooler towards the end of the day. Yeah. Warmer at sunset. Yeah.
At sunset.
I'm thinking like right now.
So you may not want the full 85 filter, you want the graded. But now we're really...
Yeah, I would say you're going to get good results no matter what 85 filter you use.
Yeah.
You'll get better results if you are measuring, but even I mean,
the most amazing thing I saw ever in my life was Beta Vodka. So you'd go to Beta's office and you'd screen your film. And back then, so you would shoot a negative and then you'd go to the lab, get your film processed, and they give you a work print. Mm-hmm. So you would cut the work print and then show Beta your work print. And at that time, he was, very strict regarding labs and labs doing a good job, bad job, being sloppy with student film. So you're screening your film and you're loving it because you created. You're
just happy to see something, yeah.
And you're happy because Beta Bach is looking at it, and he just sit there and then he whip out this like gel, a whole gel assortment.
Yep.
And he'd go over the
like an aluminum siding salesman.
Yeah, he'd just whip out these swatches, and he'd go over the projector and he'd put the gel in front of the projector and he'd be like, "This is the way it should be looking." And who printed this for you? because when they printed it, they didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Because it's just some shitty student.
Well,
Me.
or maybe you didn't know to give them the right direction.
Yeah. But the level of, getting in there and the level of knowledge of, like you said, being outside, knowing which 85 filter to use, I feel like we're geeking out.
That
to
is
like,
geeking out. I agree.
like
For a Super 8 shooter, that's geeking
because
out.
me as a student, I only saw my film, the content, the editing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see what he was seeing because of his expertise.
You weren't there yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say, so let's kind of bring this back around to, if you are someone that is new to this and maybe you're like really sweating, like, oh my God, they're just talking about all this stuff. What's maybe a good rule of thumb to go by? And I'm going to make a recommendation that Mike probably wouldn't see me making. And I've been getting kind of lazy with my 16 shooting lately, but it's a pretty safe bet a lot of time. If you just want to take that sage advice of sticking to one or two film stocks and really getting to know them, a really great way to do that, there's two really cool films from Kodak. You've got Vision 3 200T and 500T. Those are what I'm going to be shooting today. Okay. Because they're higher speed films, which means inside with no filter, I'm going to be good to go unless that lighting is very cold. If it's standard warm lighting, I can just let it rip and meter at my 200 or 500. But when I want to go outside, it's easy peasy. I throw my 85 on there. My 85 is going to cut 1.5 stops.
Tungsten, I agree. I don't fully agree with the choice of 500T. I totally agree with 200T.
200 is better for outside, yeah.
And I totally agree with Tungsten because, especially if we're talking about folks who are shooting Super 8,
yeah.
Most cameras are going to have a built-in filter, right?
Yeah, you flip it.
I don't know any off the top of my head that have a built-in 80
Blue
filter, right?
They don't go that way. Yeah.
So I think that's great advice. Yeah.
And the cameras were built for tungsten film.
Most of them were.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were really gauged for if they were daylight speeds, usually lower. So 200 is a really good. That might be the best all-around recommendation, except for about once a month, Michael send me an email from someone that's looking to shoot. It's usually something that's like a short film or like more of a production, and it's always like by moonlight or it's very, very low lit.
Stuff, yeah.
The fastest you can get is 500T, and 500T ends at the start of most base digital cameras today. Most base digital cameras have a base ISO for shooting movies of 640 or sometimes even 1600.
That's like Polaroid film.
So it's almost like low ISO film, 500T.
Yes.
For a digital shooter.
If you're digitally trained, that's like slow.
And that's why 500T
is
the best-selling go-to because your digital shooter is looking for the best he can find.
The most familiar. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the problem is they're shooting it on a beach in the middle of July.
Oh, that's a whole different story.
That's different.
Not a good difference.
Then they just need an ND. But
right.
We've talked about NDs before. But
then they need license revoked to shoot.
Yeah, you're out of the millimeter club. If you're shooting, your
your
in
application
the sand dunes shooting 500T.
We'll leave the application pending. That's all we'll do.
The only exception is
I want a big denied stamp.
Person shot 500T on a beach or in a desert, but thought they had 50D in their camera. That's the only exception of you admit you made a film stock choice.
No, but seriously, folks, if you are shooting, and I think this might even be more relevant to someone that's not using a Super 8 camera that has a built-in filter potentially,
right?
Especially like 16. If you want to start experimenting with this stuff, and you maybe want to take the look of the color you get, like if you're already excited about a flat scan, let me tell you, a properly filtered, well-graded footage from 50D, it's going to knock your socks off. Properly graded 200T that's been filtered for the right light.
It looks like a movie you see in the theater.
Awesome, Mike. When I thought you and Dave were just kind of like fluffing me up when I said the wedding stuff, like in the forest, because I actually had, I didn't just have because I shot that with 200. That was 200T. I had 200T, but I brought both of I had my 85 and then the step down 85 because we were in forest light, so I warmed it up more. The footage when I didn't need to do
when you
anything.
Go to YouTube and look up Super 8 or 16mm footage, and you look at the results, you can tell when it's a Dave scan.
Oh, okay.
You can. I can look down the list and go, "That's an FPP scan."
For real.
Yes, absolutely.
And Matt, just really quick technically,
Yeah.
because most people who are editing are still requesting log files. Have you found that working with a 4K ProRes file is your go-to, or you find yourself using the log files? I mean, it's a different topic for a different day, maybe, but
Yeah,
No,
it's
but
not
it-
this
this ties
what's
in.
A log, I mean, what's a log file?
There's so many different file types you can get. You just have to request them. And
what's the most practical?
Can I put that in my floppy?
Yeah, the most practical is probably going to be like the ready to go MP4.mov, like the kind of like the
Right.
best light
Yep.
kind of scan, which is Dave's going to do the correction. He's gonna drop the shadows, clip the whites, and really just make it look ready to go.
Yep.
And you can deliver it. It's very small, easy to like transfer to somebody. You can even text it. But if you're looking to get like eke out that quality, and you know you're going to be putting it through a Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve or anything like that, that ProRes, I think I requested a ProRes 444, which
Yep.
is color subsampling 444, 4 rows, red, green, blue. That footage was great, and it didn't. I didn't see any smoke coming from my computer like I did with the DPX files.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So it was a good middle of the road.
Yeah.
I would say if you're doing if you're concerned about all of this color stuff,
Just
folks,
shoot digital, folks.
shoot black and white. Black and white's cheating. It's great.
It is.
You can get away with murder.
Oh,
with
yeah.
black and white.
Yes.
That was honestly that was why I did. That's why I started my barbershops in black and white.
Still photography. Large
still
format.
photography.
Okay,
large
just to
format.
clarify, Matt does not own a chain of barbershops.
No. My barbershop series. It was like the first thing.
So you
that
have different color temperature going on. You have fluorescence.
It was fluorescence.
all over the-
They were always had like weird window light, and black and white removes that. All you have to worry about is getting the right contrast.
Yep.
Whereas color, it's all about those subtle hues, and especially when there's people in the shot. Once you start having mixed color grading or like color balance, and you start grading that, those small degrees that you're off get more intense as you make the correction. So let's say, okay, I have to make everything warmer. Well, now even that other thing I don't want to be warm. So it turns into this this slog to keep correcting, and eventually,
22 almost.
yeah, and you eventually correct your way out of something that looks good.
Right, and then and again to your earlier point of you should start with a good base scan. When you get to the point, and this is just a personal opinion I have with film photography, even still photography, I see a lot of people who spend so much time in post after they scan their film in. They spend so much time in post and do so much post to it, so much editing to it. It loses the soul of its filminess. I mean, at a certain point, it's like if you're going to if you have to correct so much,
Yeah.
why aren't you just shooting digital? I mean, why shoot film at all?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah. Why do you shoot film? Why do you want to shoot film? You know what I mean? So, look, I think that the average, certainly from what I see at FPP, most folks are concentrating on their subject.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're shooting Super 8, and many times they're shooting for a client, meaning like a wedding or something, and they just want some really old-timey looking footage that their client is seeing the feel and the look of film, and they're thrilled.
They want that Wonder Years feel.
But that feel doesn't have to mean crappy.
No,
that's what I'm getting
Yeah.
at. Like you think of some of your favorite films that existed before the year 2004.
The masterpiece Parent Trap 1998.
Okay.
Just bringing it back around.
Well, we got to wrap this up. This show up. It's running. We're running late here. So the only people listening right now at home are Owen McCafferty,
The Millimeter Club.
Marrash,
Yeah.
and
Courtney.
Courtney. Yep. Maybe Daniel Mall.
Does Dave listen to the podcast?
No.
We shout him out so much.
No one listens to the podcast.
Thank God.
Well, it happens.
Piece of shit.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm actually surprised. I'm curious if the people like the serial podcast listeners, the people that listen to the
Captive audience
who listen like to every show like 4 times the series.
Yeah.
If I wonder if
they skip.
I wonder if they're going to be
the movie
skipping the movie film.
Maybe. Or they'll listen
I think once they heard about the different grades of 85 filter, they're gone.
I think once people hear about Orson Welles, they're going to be like, you have to tune into those movie film podcasts.
Are we going to get to Bleach Bypass?
No, next show.
What do you mean next show?
Oh, we're gonna have to come back.
Yeah.
I mean, we have so much stuff to do. So, hey, folks, thanks for tuning in.
Get the hell out of here.
Podcast at filmphotographyproject.com. We'll see you super soon.
Way out.
Hey, we really appreciate you tuning in. Want to hear from you? Talk to you soon. Bye.
All this is caused by UFOs.